Hey everyone, welcome to this end-to-end Power BI for Data Analytics course. In this course, I'm going to be taking you on a wonderful journey on Power BI and how it is a great data analytics and business intelligence tool. This video is one of a many-part series on the broad capabilities of Power BI and how you can use it for data analytics and business intelligence and even reporting. So be sure to look for other parts of this video that of course will be linked. This course is going to be very much hands-on and practical led. Together, we're going to be helping an organization make intelligent decisions with their data. I will be walking you through a practical case study on Power BI. So be ready to build along. I promise this is going to be very exciting for you. So if you're new to Power BI or you're looking to build your first project in Power BI, this course is a very good fit for you. So without further ado, let's dive right in. Okay, so Power BI is what we're starting today. Okay, so what is the objective? What are we trying to achieve in this course? There are about 11 modules. So we're going to go through how to get started in Power BI. What exactly is Power BI? Why should we learn Power BI? What exactly is the big deal about Power BI? Right, so we're going to learn how to prepare data in Power BI, how to clean and transform data, how to do data modeling in Power BI, right? How to optimize model performance. We're going to learn about how to create reports, how to create dashboards, how to perform advanced analytics, and so on and so forth. All right. So the good thing about this course or this Power BI course is that after taking this course, you can consult some other training materials that can prepare you for a Microsoft certification called Microsoft Power BI Data Analyst. The name of that exam is called PL300, right? And if you study, what you take out from this session or from this class, as well as going through the certification requirements on the Microsoft site, I have the link in here. I can drop it in the chat for anyone that wants it, right? So you can apply to write the PL300 or the data analytics certification exam. It costs between 80 to I think $200 US. It depends on the country you're on. I think for Nigeria it costs about $80 to write, and once you pass, you're going to become like a Microsoft certified data analyst, all right, or Power BI data analyst. And these are the modules or the weights of the modules that are covered. So you have prepare the data that is going to take about 20% of the weight, model the data that's going to take about 30 to 35, visualize the data that is going to take about 25 to 30%, and then deploy and maintain variables. These are like the segments in the exam. So what we are saying technically is that if you want, you can actually, that's aside the certification completion you're going to get. If you want like a globally recognized certification, going through this PL300 or writing this PL300 exam is like a good place to start. Moving on, so what exactly is Power BI? All right, so Power BI is a business intelligence tool from Microsoft. Okay, so I think what I can do, I can change this display to take the most of the screen. Mirroring view, let me see. Okay, yeah. So yeah, I think this is better. So Power BI is a business intelligence tool from Microsoft, all right, or by Microsoft rather. What does business intelligence, what does it mean? For a business, you're looking to collect, analyze, visualize, and extract insights from your data. All right, you're expected to collect, analyze, and visualize data from data. All right, and you are expected to also extract insights for you to guide on intelligent decision making in your organization. And how best to do that, to use a tool that allows you to natively or to do that, right, out of the box, right? One tool to collect all your data, transform all your data, and build visuals for you that can allow you to make intelligent decisions in your business. All right. What is the great thing? Also, other great thing about Power BI? Power BI is a low code, no code tool, right? What do we mean by low code, no code? Before, the approach for a lot of organizations has been that analytics has always sat in the IT department, where you need like maybe strong programming language or strong math skills in order for you to work with large amounts of data for you to see insights in them, right? So the introduction of low code, no code tools means that you can use the graphical user interface of a software as opposed to writing code in order for you to extract data, transform data, and build visualization. So what this means is that you don't need lots of coding, right? Or maybe you don't need, let's just say you need as little code as possible for you to extract data and make intelligent use of Power BI. All right, so Power BI is a drag and drop tool. You remember the experience we had with Power and with pivot tables, right? That is the same experience with Power BI. So it's a lot of drag and drop, is minimal code or minimal data wrangling as possible. Okay, so how does the Power BI work? Look at all of these tools on the left. So before, I was talking about the approach to analytics, right? So think about in your business, in your day-to-day organization. Let's say I don't know, we all work in different firms or companies, or we have our own businesses, right? Before now, when you need to make any insights about your business, let me just use the most fundamental example as possible. So you sell on Instagram, right? You sell okay, no, let me not use Instagram. Let me say you sell on an e-commerce platform. Say I don't know, let's just say you sell on Jumia. All right, you sell on Jumia. Maybe you sell hair. You sell different types of hair products or different type of beauty products, right? And at the end of every week or at the end of every month, as a business, you need to first analyze some fundamentals. You need to understand some fundamental KPIs about your business. Some of these fundamental KPIs include sales, right? Am I even making sales, right? If I'm making sales, am I making profit, right? If I'm running ads, for instance, how are those ads converting to leads, or how are those leads converting to business? Okay, a lot of these fundamental metrics you want to know about your business, right? Which ad is working, right? There are a lot of, I was giving someone an example yesterday. A lot of people you see on Instagram, all these people say they're doing digital marketing, right? So I want to promote a song. So an upcoming artist right? So, and I just released an EP, and the song is jamming, right? And I have the song on maybe it's Apple Music, or what are those other streaming platforms, SoundCloud, right? And all those other ones. So, and let's say I have only 1,000 listens to my song, right? And I want to push it to more audience, okay? So what am I going to do? I'm going to pay Instablog. I'm going to give Instablog 150,000. I'm going to give Gossip Mill 100,000. I'm going to give, who else? Linda Ikeji blog 200,000 to promote my song. All right. And at the end of the day, after like a week, I go back to that. Of course, I'm monitoring my back end on Apple Music or whatever I want to know. So I see that my streams jumped from 1,000 to say 50,000 listeners. All right, that's good. I'm happy, right? As a business, or I mean, as an artist, that this thing did well. Now I have 50,000 listens, right? Of people that listen to my song. Okay, but now I'm faced with a new challenge. How do I know which of those three platforms, which of those three bloggers that I paid, how do I know which of them generated the most traffic to my link, my EP link or my music link. How do I know if I want to run this kind of campaign in the future? Am I just going to be working blindly and just giving people, like giving different bloggers different money, or is there a way I can analyze the base metric? If I want to be analytical about my music career, or my about I want to treat music as a business in quotes, I need to know out of this. So I had 1,000 before I promoted the song. Now I have 50,000. The 49,000, where did the traffic come from? Were there more traffic from Gossip Mail, or were there more traffic from Insta blog, or were there more traffic from Linda Ikeji's blog and all? A lot of people don't do these fundamentals about their business. All right, that is what as a business, that is what businesses want to know, because when you start treating everything as a business and you want to use data for informed decision making, that is where you now start on looking at the base of all of these things. Because now, in the context of a business, what a business will now do is to now try to understand what were the sources, right, of the traffic to my music website or my music link or whatever. Once I understand where these sources are, I also want to understand at what times did people click on that link to listen to that music, right? What time will it be effective to run this kind of campaign in future? Am I going to run it on a Monday, or on a weekend, or a Saturday, or a Sunday? A lot of people may say, oh, don't release music on a Monday. A lot of people are busy at work, they're not going to listen. Release it during the weekend and all. But all of those things are people's opinion and God's feelings, right? You need data to substantiate everything you do, right? There is a popular saying in the data industry that says, in God we trust, right? All other persons must bring data. If you're saying anything that is not backed by data, then it is just your opinion, just like everybody else, right? If you don't have anything superior that is saying this is the data that is backing why you should release your music on Monday versus why you should release it on Friday night, because a lot of people may think, oh, releasing the music on Friday or on Saturday is best because that's when people are groovy, they want to. Well, no, may not necessarily be true, or do you have data to back that up to say yes, this is it, right? So this is what a tool like a Power BI, like a business intelligence tool, can allow us to do, right? So now we want to analyze that data. We want to analyze the source of the traffic. What time did the traffic come? How many people came as a result of that traffic? When they hit my music, how many people listen to the music all through? Did they just click on because there's a lot of clickbait. I'm sure we all use social media. We see things like this. Someone will say, oh, click on this link, something to win 300,000, something, and then you click on it and it's taking you to like a betting site, because of course these people are giving commission based on how much traffic they drive to. But immediately you eat that thing, you see that it's a scam or it's clickbait, you leave immediately, right? So, and the website is going to count that as as a hit. All right, so hitting or getting traffic to your music link or to your website or to your blog or to your Instagram page is not the main thing. How many people actually interacted with the brand? How many people listened to the music from start to finish? How many people liked your photos? How many people liked your promotion, your images? Those are the ways to track the effectiveness of an ad. All right, so as a business, you're going to, those are, you first list out all of these metrics to analyze, right? So where does Power BI come in all of this, right? So Power BI allows you to now connect to any source of data. Okay, you know that data is just raw data. So in the context of a business, that data may reside in an Excel file. It could be in Facebook, it could be in Apple Music, it could be in an Oracle database, it could be in a database, it could be on Twitter, it could be on Instagram, it could be on LinkedIn. Just think of any of those solutions or any system or software really that collects data. All right, Power BI allows you to connect to those data sources, right? This is not like Excel where you just have to dump all of the data in Excel. No, Power BI will allow you to connect directly to the source of that data. Now look at this thing in the middle. Power BI will now allow you to transform that data. Transform means that when you are collecting data, there are a lot of errors, there are a lot of inconsistencies, there are a lot of things that you don't need, right? Dropping columns, removing columns, merging data, joining data, all of that process is called the transformation process, right? And at the end of the day, you are able to land on the visualization that is going to communicate the insight that you want to communicate, right? So Power BI allow you to do end-to-end business intelligence, right? From data collection to transformation to reporting. Okay, That's what Power BI allows you to do. All right. So what is Power BI? Power BI is a collection of softwares, service and application, and even connectors that allows you to do business intelligence. Now, Power BI has three parts. There are three parts to Power BI. There's the Power BI desktop. All right. There's what we call Power BI desktop, which I sent you in the email I sent you. You're going to see a link to download. Excuse me. You're going to see a link to download Power BI. All right. So Power BI, so that thing you're downloading is the Power BI desktop. All right. So think of Power BI desktop as that developer interface for you to build, connect to all your data sources, transform the data, and build the reports, right, on your local system, right, on your system. That is where you need to do it, right? There's now the Power BI service. Now, when you finish building a report in Power BI, of course, we are still going to practicalize all of these things. I'm just trying to introduce you to it. I mean, because before we get into the practical, let's at least understand the fundamentals. All right. So when you build your report in Power BI desktop, all right, unlike Excel, you're not going to now take that Power BI file and now send it to your boss and say, sir, I have built today's report, so this is it, I've built tomorrow's report. No, that's not how Power BI works. Power BI will now allow you to publish that data to the cloud or to the service, right? The service is basically the cloud. All right. After you publish that data to the cloud, you will now get a sharing link, all right, that you can share with every other person that need visibility, every stakeholder that need visibility into every. So you now share this report with all the stakeholders that need visibility into that your report. All right. So Power BI will allow you to share the link to all the stakeholders, which means that, and that link is they're going to have real-time access. That's another value proposition of Power BI. You're going to have real-time access to that report you publish. So think of like OneDrive, think of it like a SharePoint, where instead of sending reports or an Excel report every time, someone is able to have real-time visibility into the changes you are making on your own local system. All right. So what that means is that when you only build out a report once in Power BI, because you've connected to the data source, you've done all your transformation, you've built your report, and you publish it to the service, right? So next week you don't need to repeat the same process, or next month or next 2 months, or that data. There's a continuous flow end to end, right, where the data, when new data comes into your data source, it gets sucked into your Power BI report and it gets pushed to the Power BI service, in which anybody that can have real-time access to that report in the service. So you don't need to like be working on that report every time and republish, right? You can do all of that operation once and you publish it to the service, right? And everybody that has the link or that has access to that report can now in real time have visibility into the report. So you don't finish a report in Power BI desktop and send the Power BI desktop file to your boss and say, oh, I finished with today's report, this is it, and the person now has to go download Power BI desktop in order to view the report. No, that's not how Power BI works. Power BI allows you to publish real-time report to the Power BI service. All right. So I've mentioned the work of Power BI desktop, I've mentioned the work of Power BI service. The third one is the Power BI mobile, so which is just an extension of the Power BI service, right? So all reports are now available on the Power BI mobile, which means that on the go at every given time, anybody that needs access to reports that you've built in Power BI desktop can have access to it on the mobile, right, on the go. Okay, so there is no limit to insight generation or report consumption when it comes to Power BI. So to summarize again, Power BI desktop is like your developer environment. Think of it like a developer trying to build a website. So you write the code on your system, you build all of the websites, but when you want to see a particular website now, a developer is not going to send you the whole what's that file, that the file, maybe a visual. They're not going to send you the code that I used to build all of the website. Say, okay, send it to you and say, I finished building this website so you can see. No, it's going to is going to make the website available via a link or via a domain that is going to send to you, that you can now have visibility into that. So Power BI desktop is that backend where you write all your, where you do all the dirty work, as far as report creation, report generation is concerned, right? While Power BI service is like the publicly available URL. Well, this is not publicly available anyway. It's a private cloud. They call it private cloud, or yeah. So you have that report or whatever, that dashboard available to you, for you to view that report on the service or on the cloud. Then the Power BI mobile is just an extension of that. Okay, so I've explained all of this. How does Power BI work? Power BI allows you to connect to your data source. So your data source is on the left, and your data source could be any data source. Could be Excel, could be database, could be the cloud, could be power anywhere that houses your data. Basically, you connect all of that into the Power BI desktop. So this is the Power BI desktop you are looking at in the middle. You build all your report in the Power BI desktop, and then you publish it to the Power BI service, and of course extend it to the Power BI mobile. So this is like the flow, or the logical flow of how data moves. So when data is at this end, it is in its raw format, right? Data in the raw format, in tables, columns and rows and all of those things. By the time you're moving it into Power BI, you're summarizing it, you're giving it like you're extracting insights and so on and so forth, and then you're publishing it for use on the Power BI service. So let's talk about the journey from data to insight. So this is how your data moves once again. So you have your data on the left, all right? So these three things that are combined into this box, right, are available in Power BI. So these are the phases that your data moves to in order to before your data gets to the final consumer. Okay, so when you extract data, when you're collecting data, all right, the very first thing it gets in contact to is what we call the Power Query. What is Power Query? So all of this is in Power BI, by the way. So let me even tell you like a quick backstory. I don't know how many of you would know that Power BI basically started from Excel, all right? Power BI was introduced in I think 2014. So these three components you're seeing here, Power Query, Power Pivot, and let's just say Power BI for visualization. These three things used to exist separately as separate solutions in Excel. All right, so there's Power Query in Excel, there's Power Pivot in Excel, and then there's a data visualization in Excel. All right, so Microsoft thought of it like, instead of having these three as just add-ons to Excel, we need to have a standalone product that is going to combine all of these functionalities of Excel into one single solution, and that was what bettered Power BI. Okay, so Power Query is the very first solution, or what the very first contact point you get into when you launch a Power BI. So what does Power Query do? Power Query is an ETL tool. What do I mean by ETL? What is the full meaning of ETL? ETL simply means extract, transform, and load. All right, extract, transform, and load. That is all the job that a Power Query does. What does extract means? Very simple. Power Query helps you to extract data. It's the same thing as what we mean by connect here and fetch, right? Power Query allows you to extract the data. So you know that, like I said, you know when I said initially that data, it could be in different systems or solutions. So think about what it would take to connect directly to your Instagram account and be able to get all the data from your Instagram account, all the pictures you've liked. Let's say you want to analyze just for fun about your Instagram activity or your Twitter activity. You want to understand how many pictures do you like, what kind of pictures do you like, right? What times are you most active on social media, and so on and so forth. Or you want to collect, you have a brand, you want to understand some base metrics. So you want to connect to Instagram, right? Or you want to connect to a database, or you want to connect to a website, or you want to connect to an Excel file, right? The first thing you need to do is to extract that data from that data source into Power BI, right? So that is what Power Query allows you to do. It takes care of the first step, which is the extract step. All right. After extraction, the next thing is now transformation. Transformation is the same thing as cleaning that data. I've said it times without number that when data comes in, data is dirty, data is always having a lot of inconsistencies, things are missing, and so on and so forth. So Power Query allows you to transform that data. So all of these things you are saying here, merge and combine, add or change data, reshape the data, all of these things you can put them under transformation. All right, so Power Query allows you to extract the data. That's the first step. It allows you to transform the data, which is a merge and combine, add, change data, reshape data, and all sorts. And then finally, Power Query now allows you to load that data into another solution that is going to take care of the remaining actions. All right, so what Power Query does, the only thing Power Query does is ETL. You extract the data, you transform the data, and then it loads it to another tool. So think of it like when you want to cook a soup, you want to cook a stew, right? So what's the very first thing? You get all your tomatoes, your pepper, your whatever, and all that, onions, right? So that's the raw data. All of that, you cannot really start consuming those things as they are raw, right? So you first need a process. You need an ETL process to get you to even starting to fry the stew, right? So what do? You put everything in the blender. All right, so that's it. What does the blender do in this context of Power Query? So the blender is going to act as your Power Query now. Is your ETL tool. So it's going to extract all the data. It's going to now transform it within using all these blades and everything. It's going to chop it down, transform it into what you need. And you know that in your blender you can control how smooth you want your pepper or whatever it is to be, right? So Power Query allow you to extract the data. Your blender now allow you to extract all your pepper and onions. It allow you to transform everything. Now allows you to now load it into a pot or a bowl, right, for you to carry on with other activities. Because once Power Query load the data, once it gives you the output, its job is done. But that's not the final product that you need. You still need to, you're not going to still take that blended pepper and start consuming. You still need to now garnish it, do all of those. That's the job of Power Pivot and Power BI. But once Power Query allows you to extract the data, transform it, and load it, its job is done. It gives it to the Power Pivot. Power Pivot is also called the data model. Oh, sorry. Before I go to the Power Pivot, there is a language in Power Query for transforming data. The language is called M language. Just M. There is not a short form of anything. It's just the letter M. What Microsoft was thinking when it came up with that, I don't know. Up to today, nobody can say what this is the meaning of the M in M language. It's just letter M. All right. So the letter M is what allows you to do all of the transformation. But the interesting thing is that you don't need to learn this language to work with Power Query in Excel, in Power BI. You remember what I said? The Power BI is a low-code tool. All right, is a low-code, no-code tool. So by low-code, what it means is that majority of the things you need to do in Power Query, you can use the drag and drop feature. You can use the GUI. They call it GUI, graphical user interface. To do is like the way you. It's like taking a picture with your phone, and then you want to apply filters, you want to change the filter, change the background, change all of those things. Everything you are doing on that interface, you are doing it on the graphical user interface of either your camera or your photo editing software, right? There's a code that is being written in the background. So that code for Power Query is called M language, but you are still able to use the interface to do all the things you want to do, right? It's only when you want to do advanced things, right? That's where you now need to go. Instead of all the editing software now, that's where you now need to go to that back. Okay, your call ends in 50. So when you want to do some advanced things, that's when you need to now touching the M code. You now start modifying some certain things. But for beginner level, most of the things that you need to do, you're not going to be using the M language. But every transformation you do in Power Query, just know that a code is being generated. When we get there, I'm going to make reference to it. Just know that a code is being written. So when you do, when you remove a column, for instance, or you rename a column, there is a code that is going to be generated at the back end to say, oh, you rename this column. And the reason for that code is so that it keeps it in memory of that step you took, because you remember what I said, that in Power BI you are not going to be repeating. You know that in Excel, if you do all of this transformation you did now and you get new data, you need to do it for that new data. In Power Query or in Power BI, it's not like that. When you transform a data once, even if, let's say you transform a data in January 2023 and we are in August now, all the new data that came in from February to August will obey the same principles you applied in January for that same, as long as the data structure is the same, it will obey all of the principles and just start transforming it the same way you have transformed that data. It's only when there's now an outlier or it doesn't conform to the structure, that's where you now have to change some things, but it goes all the way. So because he needs to remember all of those steps, that's why those codes are written, and that's why the steps are also stored in memory. All right, so that's for the M language. Okay, so it's not compulsory, you learn it, but if you pay attention and you're studying the pattern of how he's writing the code when you do a transformation, when you now need to make any changes, you can quickly go back and just tweak something to make the code work. Okay, I finished with Power Query. So Power Pivot, Power Pivot is also called the data model. Okay, Power Pivot is also called the data model. Data model is basically you have, so using the Blender example that I used, the pepper, you've gone through the Power Query steps to extract all your, from the pepper, onions and everything. You now have blended pepper that is comprised of different things, right? But you still need to make a soup, or you need to make a sauce or whatever. Now you now need to bring different data that are related together in order to build relationships between all of those data to speak the same language. So in our case, let's say you have sales data, right? So this is the sales data that is talking about sales, but in that sales data you now have maybe something around another data, let's say product table, you have a salesperson table, you have a customer table, you have a date table, and all of those things. You now want to build a relationship, you want to make the different tables talk to each other. So you need to build a relationship, you need to build a data model. That's what the Power Pivot is talking about. Using our pepper example, you have your pepper, you want to now build a relationship between that and maybe your seasoning, your oil, and all of those things, because all of those things need to go hand in hand for you to have your final soup or your stew or whatever, right? So in a Power Pivot, what you are doing is modeling the data. You are setting up relationships between different tables, because when you are working with enterprise data, enterprise scale data, you are not just going to have, you know, the type of data we've been working with is just one data that is just in Excel. Everything is inside that table that you need. But there are instances where all the things you need are not in one single table, they are in different tables or in multiple tables. Let me give you an instance. Let's say the example of the social media I mentioned the other time. All right, so you're selling something on Instagram and you have all your sales data. Right now, let's say you're selling something like sweaters, or sweat tops or sweaters. Right now, you want to understand how seasonality affects your sales. You want to know, because as you know, when you're working with data, you need to think critically, you need to look outside your data sometimes to understand, how does seasonality affect my sales? Do I make more sales in summer, or do I make more sweater sales in winter, or do I make more sweater sales in autumn or in fall using our own distance? Will I make more sweater sales in rainy season or in harmattan or in dry season? Someone that doesn't have a lot of data experience will say, no, now you are supposed to sell more data in rainy season, right? But remember what I said, without data you just have an opinion like everybody else, right? Because you cannot validate or you cannot prove that that is true, right? So you want to you take your sales data, for instance, and you merge it with, say, a, what do they call that, the data that all these meteorological stations publish, forgotten what it's called now. Let's just say seasonal, all this weather forecast, right? You want to merge your data with the weather forecast for the whole year to know, okay, which day the rainfall, which day the sunshine, which day was there snow, which day was there harmattan. You now want to merge your two data. You want to build a relationship between that weather data or that weather forecast or weather data and your sales data. You want to understand, so on this day I sold 500 sweaters, rain fell this day. On the 2nd of February I sold 100 sweaters, there was heavy sunshine. There was, on this third day, when you now build that relationship, you are now going to see, is there a correlation between rainfall and my sale of sweaters? So that way I know that, in anticipation, I know that when I see that in the next 1 week there's going to be heavy rainfall, I need to stock up and buy more stock, because I'm projecting that the sales is going to climb based on my historical data. Or when I see that, oh, in the next 2 weeks or 3 weeks there is not going to be any rainfall, and I'm supposed to go pay for new inventory in China to bring new stock, so maybe I can hold on, right? Instead of just committing and holding a lot of inventory, I can hold on from that, because from my data, my sales is affected by weather or by seasonalities, right? So in the process of bringing together multiple tables or to build a relationship is called data modeling, all right, which is what the Power Pivot allows you to do. It's actually called data model in Power BI. So in a data model, you build a relationship, you model your data, you create extra columns, you create measures, and so on and so forth. All right, that is what you do in a data model. Then finally, also in the data model you use another language called the DAX language. All right, DAX language. What does DAX means? DAX stands for data analysis expressions. Data analysis expressions. Again, it's nothing to be scared about. It's not most of the DAX language is very similar to the Excel formulas that you write. You are going to see the same sum, count, if, average, orishi, and all of those things, right? So nothing to be scared about in DAX language as well. So once you are done with the Power Pivot, once you're done with data modeling, all of those things, that's when you can now move to the Power BI, which is talking about visualizing your data, forecasting, interactive visuals, and so on and so forth. So a lot of the time when people see Power BI, they only see the shining dashboard and report, but there are a lot of work that needs to be done on the ground before you get to all of that fantastic or beautiful visual that you see. So you can see a quick note here. Say Power BI includes Power Query and Power Pivot. So all of these solutions, even though I'm talking about them separately, they are together in one solution. And even if you don't really pay attention, you will not even know that they are different parts, because they are so tightly integrated that you're just going to be moving easily between all of them. But it's good to know that they are sort of like different. Power Query, the data model, and Power BI, but they are all together. Even though we call this in Power BI, even though we call this third one Power BI, all of these things are still Power BI because they are together in one single Power BI solution. But I mean, there are differences between them. So they are what we call the building blocks of Power BI. When we say building blocks, it's just a big name for what are the components of what we when we talk about, when we say Power BI, what are some of the components? So there are different terminologies, or will I say terminologies that we use in the context of Power BI. So some of them include a report, right? When we say a report in Power BI, a report is just, if you're looking on the left, a report is like a collection of different visuals. All right, a report is a collection of different visuals in Power BI. So when you're looking at something on the left, it's a collection of different visuals. While if you look at the right, what we have in a square red box is one visual. So when you have just one they call it a visualization or visual. Okay, so you can either say visualization or you call it visual. So I was trying to tell the difference between a dashboard and the report, right? So I would say that what you have on this right hand side is called a report, which is one report. So think of this, if you can look, let me in here. So look at this report. You have, let's just call this an HR report, right? So you have one report for info, you have one report from the page name, you have one report for new hires, you have one report for active and separation, you have one report for bad hires, you have another report for new hire scorecard, right? Let's now say you now want to present this to a stakeholder. You don't want to stretch the stakeholder to moving from one report to the other. You just want to put a summary or the most important elements of each of these reports. You want to put it on one single portal. That is where you now need to do a dashboard. So a dashboard is just a collection of the most important elements in multiple reports into one single platform, which is a dashboard. Which is a dashboard. So what you are looking on this first page is a dashboard, because a dashboard is bringing together the most important elements in different reports into one single portal. But when we get to Power BI proper, we would explain it. But just know that in my own opinion, a lot of people will tell you a dashboard is different from a report, but outside the context of Microsoft or in Power BI, you can use them interchangeably. Don't stress yourself. So how are we going to move for the rest of this Power BI course? We're going to go through these 7 steps. We're going to pick a data, we're going to pick a case study, right? And we're going to go through these 7 steps of Power BI. The very first thing is we're going to extract the data, right? We're going to transform. Remember ETL, extract, transform, and load. We're going to extract the data. We're going to actually extract multiple data from different sources. We're going to transform all of this data. We're going to load it. After we load, we're going to go to number 3 steps. We're going to do modeling or data modeling. We're going to go to number 4 step, which is calculation or DAX. We're going to go to number 5, which is the visualization or the Power BI desktop or on the Power BI report or build a dashboard and all that. Then we are going to go through number 6 and number 7 is pretty advanced. We may not touch it, but I'll just try to do a summary, which is distribution. We're going to publish that report to the Power BI service, and then we set up automation. All right, 1 to 5, I'm sure 6 and 7, it's a little bit advanced, but we'll try to touch on that. So these are the steps we're going to go through. So we're going to go through a demo, and at the end of this demo, we're going to be looking at another case study, which is Van Hasdel manufacturer. So Van Hasdel manufacturer is an expensive electronic product manufacturer that can be used Van Hasdel manufactures expensive electronic product that can be used for fun as well as work, and they sell this product directly to consumers nationwide in USA as well as in several other countries. So Van Hasdel and their competitors, they've retained a third-party marketing company to collect and anonymize industry sales so that all participants can benchmark themselves, right? So you have been hired by Van Hasdel as a data analyst to compare Van Hasdel's market performance with that of their competitors, and in the process you have to try to figure out if any scenarios stand out. So Van Hasdel is a manufacturing company that manufactures electronics products, right? There are other manufacturers as well that manufacture similar products, so they wanted to benchmark against themselves. So they hired a third-party marketing company to collect and anonymize all the industry sales data, right, so that all participants can benchmark themselves. So as a data analyst for Van Hasdel, you are going to try to now analyze Van Hasdel data and compare it to his competitors to understand if there are any standout scenarios for Van Hasdel. At the end of this report, you're expected to build a dashboard that looks similar to this, where you're able to see there's a trend and you're able to benchmark Van Hasdel against other manufacturers, and you're able to see the sales across different countries, across different categories, and so on and so forth. This is the other dashboard. You're expected to introduce a map visual. So Van Hasdel is selling in multiple companies, and you want to see what is the market share of an Hasdell to its competitors, what is the sales trend, what countries are they most active in, and so on and so forth. So that is the task ahead of us. Okay, so the very first thing is to download Power BI Desktop. So you can use any of these two links to download Power BI Desktop. I'll prefer you use this first link. The first link will take you to the Microsoft Store, right? So if I click on this link, for instance, it's going to take me to the Microsoft Store, and it's going to ask me if I want to open the Microsoft Store. The reason why I prefer to use this approach is that when you download from the Microsoft Store, Power BI is a solution or is a software that gets updated regularly. So when there are new updates, you are going to get prompted to install the updates, or some of the updates can even get installed automatically. All right, so this is trying to open up the Microsoft Store. Once it opens, you are going to be prompted to download. Why are you taking so long? While this is opening, yeah, so this is a PI desktop already downloaded, so it's not going to ask me to install. It's asking me to install for whatever weird reason, but I already have this. So if you get this link, you're going to have to install the Power BI. Okay, it's going to take some time, but it's going to download. So I prefer this first way. But what if you don't have Microsoft Store, or you don't have access to it? Then you can use the second link. This second link will just take you to load the Microsoft site. The disadvantage of this is that every time there is an update, right, you need to come back in here to download the latest update. All right, Power BI gets updated practically every month. Okay, so if the first link is not working, you don't fret. You just click on the language. By default it's set to English, and then hit download. You can download it. So if you can, use this first link, but if the first link is not working for you, use the second link. The second thing you need to do is to download the course materials. So the course materials are internal. Use the second link. The second thing you need to do is to download the course materials. So the course materials are internal drive. One click on that link, it gives you a link to download the drive, to download a zip folder. So this folder is called data. Once you hit download, it's to download as a zipped file. All right, once the data loads as a zip file, you are going to extract. So this is it. It's a 274 megabytes. You just click on this download, it downloads it, but you're going to get it as a zip file. I want to believe we all know how to unzip a file. How do you unzip a file? So if you download the data, it's going to come like this. If you download the data, it's going to come like this. Of course, you can have another zip manager, of course, but it's going to come as a zip file. If you try to open it, it's going to open weirdly. You will not be able to have access to the data, so you need to unzip that folder first before you can use it. And how do you unzip a folder? This one is asking me to purchase, blah blah blah. I close it. So just right click on it, and then you're going to see extract. So see, you can either say extract files, or you can say extract to a data sample. So just extract. Don't click on this extract here. If you click on extract here, it's going to extract all the content and just spread it across your if you have other folders. You're not going to be able to see it in one single folder. So you can just either click to extract to data sample. So it's going to extract in this same directory, and you can see. So now you see it has extracted this data sample. So if I double click on this now, you're going to be able to see that folder. All right, so these are all the files in the folder. You're going to see a folder called international sales. You're going to see a folder called international sales. You're going to see a folder called theme. You're going to see a folder called US sales. You're going to see background and Van Hasel logo. Those are the content of that. What you are going to do with them, we are going to talk about it in the next class. Okay, all you just have to do before tomorrow, I said before tomorrow, today is Sunday, before the next class, is to download Power BI and download the course materials. So let me just show you what Power BI looks like once you download it, so that you can get comfortable with it can get comfortable with it, right? So I'm trying to open up Power BI deck. I wanted to say, if you have a MacBook, unfortunately you cannot use you cannot use Microsoft Power BI on a Mac, and that's because Microsoft has not given support for a MacBook to run Power BI. So the only workaround that I see people use is that the what's that thing you do on Mac that allows you to run Windows operating system. So anyways, if you're a Mac user, you will have come across it already. So you have to split your operating system to allow you to run Windows application, right? And that's the only way you will be able to work with Power BI. But Power BI, and the reason for that is very simple. Power BI is a solution by Microsoft, and they didn't feel it is a value proposition for people to use Windows PC, which Microsoft is heavily invested in, right? So making it available for Mac means to them is like strengthening your competitor. So that's why they didn't give any support for Mac users to be able to run. So if you want to use Power BI as a Mac user, you would need to why am I losing my train of thought? You need to split your operating system, whatever. So when you open Power BI for the first time, you're going to be greeted with this window. You are going to see get data, recent sources, medical visits. Oh, sorry. These are my own projects. So you're going to see me create new deck, open other report, get started, what's new, Power BI blog, forums. You can feel free to interact with all of this. Maybe before our next class, you can feel free to interact with what's new, the Power BI blog, the forum, or the tutorials if you want to study ahead of the class, all that. For this purpose of this class, I'm just going to close this start page and show you the Power BI interface. All right, so this is the Power BI interface. This is where we are going to be doing all our work, right? In Power BI. Okay, so this is the Power BI interface, and you can see it has tabs similar to Excel: Home tab, Insert tab, Modeling, View, and so on. Modeling, View, and so on. If I go back to the Home tab now, you can see also these are like the different panes that you can interact with from the Microsoft from the Power BI standpoint. If you come to the right hand side here, you'll see the different visualizations that you can build in Power BI. You can see most of them are similar to what we already discussed in Excel: the bar chart, the column chart, clustered bar chart. You can see the stacked area, the line chart. If you were in the dashboard class that we did in Excel, most of this you'll be familiar with already. The pie chart, donut chart, the map visual, all of this. So all of these things are visuals that you can create in Power BI. Now you are not just limited to all of this, you can also get more visuals. If you want some more visuals that are not available out of the box, you can also go to the I need to sign in. You can also go to the You can also go to the partner site for you to get, or to the App Store for you to get other visualization, right? But I'm not signing. I don't want to go through the process of signing in now. If you look at this data page, data you bring into Power BI, this is where you are going to see all of them, all the tables, all the columns, and everything. Any data now, so you are not going to see anything here. If you want to see a sample, you can just click on, maybe before our next class, just click on this try sample data. It's going to load. If you click on try sample data, it's going to load the just bring you like a random data that you can place and you can start building visualizations on. Okay, so any data you bring in is going to come right here in Power BI. Also in Power BI there are three different views. In Power BI there are three different views in Power BI. So if I click on this load sample data, it's going to load sample data, but I don't want to go through the stress now. So there are three views in Power BI. The very first one is a report view. This is your report view. is like your canvas that you need to use to build your report. Okay, your report view is like the canvas, so you can see is where you put all your reports. All right, then you have the one called the data view. If you over on them, you see their names. This is report view, this is data view, so you don't have to cram it. The data view, when you load all the data, of course blank for now, this is where you get to see your data in a table like structure, so in columns and rows, similar to Excel. You're going to see all your data in here, the tables and everything is where you get to see it. So that's your data view. Third view is the model view. This is build data view. Third view is the model view. This is build data models. Remember the other time I was talking about Power Pivots and data model is loading. So this is where you create all your relationships between data. So you can even see some a sample of that looks like, right? But once we get into the Power BI proper, you see how to build relationships. So this is where you build your data models. This is where you see the data view, and this is where you build reports in Power BI. Now, let me quickly circle back to the question of time around how do you connect to different data sources, and this is where you are going to start. Once you launch Power BI, the first place you are going to go is we call this get data. All right, get data. That is where you go to bring in data into Power BI. And if you click on get data, you see all the sources, all the data sources that you can connect to in Power BI. You can see the different collections, you can see files. So from a file perspective, you can connect to Excel, different Excel files, or in CSV file, XML files. You have data in PDF. So as I was saying, so you're able to connect to different files, Excel, CSV, JSON folder, PDF, even SharePoint if you have data there. If you want to get data from a database, okay, if you want to get data from a database, Power BI allows you to connect to different databases. All right, be it a SQL Server database, Oracle database, IBM. I'm going to show you a sample of how to connect to a database and get data out tomorrow. So let's say you have a database in an organization and you want to get data out of that. Power BI can connect to a database, whatever type, and you can connect and data from that database. Okay. There's also something called Microsoft Fabric. I don't want to talk about Microsoft Fabric because it is still in preview. So Power BI is also evolving from a business intelligence solution or standalone intelligence solution to evolve into an end-to-end analytics solution that you're able to do data engineering, you're able to do data science, you're able to write machine learning, you're able to do data warehousing in one solution. So Power BI is being embedded into other solutions, and this suite of solution is called Microsoft Fabric. But this solution is still in view by Microsoft, which means that it has not been launched. It's still in preview for people to try it out and all that. So I'm not going to talk about it. Maybe I can give us a brief overview when we get there, but I don't want to run. It's not part of the agenda that we set out, but like it's good to, if we want to learn about it, we can read up Microsoft Fabric. Like I said, it's still in preview. You can see it's circled in preview here. It's not in general availability yet, but if you want to read more about it, you can do that. So Power BI also allows you to get data from Microsoft Azure. So Microsoft Azure is the cloud environment of different ways. So you have Azure data SQL database, for instance. This is just like an SQL database that is sitting in Azure cloud. You have Azure Synapse Analytics. All of these things may be foreign or alien to you. Don't bother about them. If you are going to use any of them, if you get employees at the database, the company is going to tell you, oh, in our own company we use AWS or we use Azure cloud, right? And the methodology to connect to all of them is pretty much the same thing. If you want to connect to any database, whether that database is on-premise, is in Azure, is in AWS, whatever, you only need two things. You need the server credentials or the IP, which the is going to provide for you. then you need the database you want to connect to, which the company is going to provide for you, then you need the username and the password which the company is going to provide for you. All right, so you don't need to worry about, oh, is blob storage they are using, how do I connect to it, oh, is this one. You don't need to worry. These things, they have the same way to connect. So you only need the credential, the server credentials, you need the database name if it's a database, you need the username and the password, 4 things, and it's going to be provided for you in any organization you want to work with. Okay, you also have different online services that you can connect to get data from. All right, so different online services, you have SharePoint, Dynamics 365, Salesforce, Google Analytics, GitHub, and I'm going to show you a sample of how to connect to one of them or to them in the next class. Okay, so we are going to look at Viva Insights, Databricks, all of those are for project management and so on and so forth. There are also other sources. You can connect to a website. If it's a public website, you can connect to a website to get data from a website. I'm going to show a sample of how to connect to like maybe a Wikipedia page to get a sample data for another. So you can see you can connect to a website, you can connect to OData feed is how to get data via API. I talked about if you have a Python or an R script that you have written, you can also connect it to Power BI to get data out of that. All right, you can also connect to other data sources that are in here. Let me see what are some of these data sources. QuickBooks, but okay, we're gonna explore some of them anyways in the next class, especially this website. But the next class, especially this website, we're going to look at the website, we are going to look at a database, we're going to look at Excel, we're going to look at some other flat file folders and so on and so forth. All right, so I guess that's the end of today's session. In the next class, we're going to dive right into our class proper. Diving in, what I mean is we're going to start with our case study, and we will start working with Power BI to answer the business questions that we have identified. So thank you very much. Again,